Could you just describe again this drug pricing is something that the public is outraged about. Drug companies do a lot of, there are wonderful people working at drug companies who make, contribute to important research. These companies do some awful, awful things.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a lot of investigations going on now at the state level about exactly what opioid manufacturers, producers were doing in terms of downplaying the risk. I mean, this is sadly something that we've seen in other circumstances. Tobacco is sort of the big one that folks are familiar with. But downplaying the risk, also the way in which distributors were providing way more opioids to certain areas than could possibly make sense based on the population. In essence, either turning a blind eye to what was going on, in some cases maybe even taking steps that actively encouraged the crisis. Now, I mean, these are ongoing, but there are a lot of suits in a lot of states. In fact, some of the various states that you see senators, basically supporting to cut funding to combat the crisis and give these folks tax breaks that could very well, cover any losses they get if they were sued in court and found to have taken, inappropriate steps. This is the sort of thing. It's like this bill. I guess even calling it a monstrosity, it's almost like one of these these Halloween haunted houses. So it's like every door you open is a new monster.
Yeah,
I mean that's what's sort of going on, and part I think it's because folks weren't taking the time to even figure out what it was that they were doing. There wasn't a care about people's lives. There wasn't a care about what would happen to folks. It was just about getting this proverbial win.
Yeah,
whatever that means. It was about keeping some promise. Which, by the way, I just want to talk for a moment about that. We heard this again and again and again. Well, I have to keep my promise. I have to keep my promise. I consider myself a pretty close follower of politics. I don't remember any Republican getting up there and saying, to a crowd of 2,000 people, look to your left, look to your right. I'm going to make sure none of you have health care. Is there, wait, quick.
That's
anyone,
a promise.
Yeah, anyone making more than $1 million, raise your hand. You, sir, get a tax cut. I mean,
right. Yeah,
I don't think that would have been a great speech, and I never heard it.
They didn't promise the thing they were trying to do. They promised, Trump kept saying he's going to replace it with something beautiful, something better.
Terrific,
something terrific. For 7 years, they kept saying that the problem was the premiums were going up too much and the costs were too high. Their bill would have made that worse.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The issues were deductibles too high, premiums too high, too few issuers in the marketplace. And so their solution was skyrocketing deductibles, skyrocketing premiums, and push more insurers out of the marketplace. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting. You never heard anyone make an actual defense of the substance of this bill.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also worth just noting for a moment the great work that the sort of health press team did. Like it didn't always break through on the national level, but there are a lot of folks that cover health on their daily beat, and they asked these questions, seemingly simple questions. Can you explain to me why this bill that you're supporting is good? And they kept asking it until it became clear that the answer was, I don't have a good answer. It's not good.